this is Stampy. Welcome to, I don't know. Basketball. I like basketball. What's up, y'all? Today we're talking the trade deadline. It was a very, very crazy trade deadline. One of the most emotional ones ever. I remember that Luka trade. I sent a voice memo to my friend just screaming as loud as I could. Like, why would they do this? Why would they do this? Not even a Mavs fan, so that's just to give you a taste of how crazy this trade deadline was. Today, we are going to be ranking each team's trade deadline based on their performance, how good they did, just how active they were on a tier list, a classic tier list. So let's just start. Now, starting with one of the more, like I said, emotional trades of the deadline, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, who traded away Khris Middleton, who, I'm a Thunder fan, and I was sad to see that. That was a rough, I've seen all the edits and all the Bucks fans all over the internet being real upset about that one. And they brought in Kuzma, who's not even that good, but, it was a cap space issue, so, their hand was forced. It's the reason I personally like the second apron, is because we wouldn't have got a trade that affects the storyline as much as this one if there was no second apron. So the second apron justifies it enough to get I'll give him a C. We'll move him into a C. Good trade for cap purposes. Coming off a Khris Middleton loss and adding Kevin Porter Jr., who's like a locker room cancer, notoriously, is kind of crazy. I'll keep him C because, it was a fine one. It was a fine trade, but they're kind of teetering on a D in my eyes. Next, we have the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets did absolutely nothing this deadline. I saw no reports of them talking to teams, except for the Nick Claxton one, which didn't go through, even though that Mark Williams deal was a very good deal. I would have taken that for Nick Claxton if I were the Nets. I might put them F. I saw a report that they want to buy out Ben Simmons, which is cool for the rest of the league, but it's not. I guess it's fine for them. I'll give them a D because some teams did way worse, as you probably know. Moving on to the Knicks. The Knicks are one of those teams that might have done worse. I'm going to say they did worse. I'm going to put them in F. Let me tell you why. They traded Jericho Sims, a player that was beloved by the franchise, for a French guard. I don't remember his name, but they got draft rights to a French guard who, if it's anything like Micic, this French guard may not even come over for, 11 years. I don't remember how long that Micic wait was for the Thunder, but the French guard may come over and just be okay, and they traded away Jericho Sims for him and DeLon Wright. DeLon Wright this season is shooting 26, 25, 56 splits. So 25% from three and 56% from the line. That's crazy. And 26% from the field. So they traded away a beloved player for draft rights to an okay guard and DeLon Wright, who is not playing good at all. I'm going to give them an F. On a bit of a brighter note, though, the Toronto Raptors traded for Brandon Ingram for nothing, really. Bruce Brown's a tough loss, kind of, but Brandon Ingram's a better player. They got James Wiseman, and they got PJ Tucker. So they added a lot of good talent they got rid of some stuff, like not very good players. They got rid of PJ Tucker. They got rid of Kelly Olynyk and some picks, I'm pretty sure. They might have gotten some back. And they overall just became a play-in super team. And that's why I'm giving them an A for sure. The Utah Jazz, I will give a B. I thought it was hilarious. They were in every trade like Forrest Gump. They were just in the background of everything. That Luka trade, they were in there. They were in the Jimmy Butler trade, which was hilarious. And they were in the first trade of the trade deadline, which was funny. But, in all seriousness, they did get some good value for not a lot. They're a tanking team, so just taking on contracts like PJ Tucker, but they traded PJ Tucker. They got a lot of picks. I thought it was a good trade deadline from the Jazz. And the Rockets, I'm going to put in C tier with the Bucks. The Rockets didn't really do anything. They got Cody Zeller, what's his name, Springer, and they got 2 seconds, and all they traded was 1 second. So they got good value, and they didn't do anything, and they didn't really need to do anything. They're second or third in the Western Conference right now, so they didn't really need to make any massive changes. Not a very active trade deadline, which is fine. They have young pieces. Just keep it together, see how it goes. I think that's a good play. The Pelicans are a team who I've seen get a lot of hate this deadline, but They got Bruce Brown. They got some good value that they said they're going to try to shop around Bruce Brown in the offseason, which they could get some value from. They got some good value for Brandon Ingram when they had no leverage. Brandon Ingram made it pretty clear that he wasn't going to re-sign with them. I will give them a C. Next up, the winners of the trade deadline, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. It's very clear. They're A. They are 1A. They got Luka Doncic. They got Mark Williams. The Mark Williams package, I think, was an overpay. I think they could have gotten Nick Claxton with all that. I don't know how they didn't. And Nick Claxton is a better player. But Luka Doncic, losing AD is very sad. And heartbreaker for Lakers fans. I've seen all over the internet, just very sad about it. But a 25-year-old Luka Doncic, as long as Mark Williams can stay healthy, it should be great for the team. You're not going to be able to replace Anthony Davis with a center that is just as good because you're not going to get Embiid, you're not going to get Jokic. And they did what they could with what they had. They had limited resources. And I think they came out the winner of the trade deadline for sure. Okay, the Bulls had an awful trade deadline. Easy F tier. They traded away Zach LaVine for nothing. They traded him away for Herter, Trey Jones, and Zach Collins. And Herter is he has a reputation to be a good shooter because of his Hawks days, but ever since he got to the Kings, he shot awful. He's shooting 25% since January 1st, 2025. And Trey Jones is the best pickup they got from this. There's a quote saying Vucevic wants to win now, and I don't think this helps them win now. I think this is what you do if you're going to tank, but they also didn't trade away Vucevic, and they traded for their own top 10 protected pick. If your pick is top 10 protected, just lose more games. Trade away Vucevic, keep your 7 guards that they have for some reason, and just lose the games and get the pick and try to come back next season. And next up is Minnesota, who also, Minnesota definitely, in my eyes, should have made a move. They should have done something because right now they're 7th or 8th seed. They're pretty low down there. No moves is obviously it's the safe option, but it's not the good one, in my opinion, especially for the Wolves who are so low in the seeding. That's a pretty easy D tier, in my opinion. And another team that didn't do anything is the Blazers, but this is different. The Blazers are in a very good position. They have their young players. They are on a tear right now. They're 8-2 in their last 10, and they're winning games. And you know what's really good about it? They haven't moved up the standings at all. So they're just now getting to the place where they can compete for a play-in spot. So if they win, they're competing for a play-in spot. And if they lose, they're just getting a better pick. No need to do anything. I'll give them a C tier. I think C tier is fair. Yeah. And yet another team, these next two teams, the Nuggets and the Thunder, didn't do anything either. I am going to put the Nuggets in D tier because they made no moves. They're another team. They're the 4th seed. They're 10 games behind the 1st seed at this point. Probably should have made a move. They have so many big contracts they could have traded away. They have young players they could pair with it. And then the Thunder are probably a D tier as well. They're the 1st seed. They traded away 1 second-round pick, and they got 2 second-round picks, which is whatever. And they got Daniel Tice, who they cut. They made some moves for the future. Classic Sam Presti move. I'll move them up to C tier because the 1st seed doesn't really need to move. They don't need to do a lot. Just keep buying in. They're young. Sam Presti last season said the Gordon Hayward cash-in was a mistake. He should have just kept the team together. I think he just didn't want to repeat his mistakes, that's fine. Next up, we have the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies, they traded away, they traded away Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia, who is a sad loss. And they got Marvin Bagley and who else? They got Johnny Davis, right? I'm going to give them a B because Davis is a good pickup, and I think Bagley is also a pretty good pickup. And Marcus Smart hasn't played any basketball this year, really. He has been injured a lot this year. B overall. Why not? I think it's fine. And next up is a team. A lot of people say lost the deadline. I don't believe that. I think Anthony Davis is a good pickup. I really do think Luka didn't play at all this season, and they're going to raise the ceiling a lot of this team. And they could easily compete for a title. So I'm tempted to give them a C, but they traded away Quentin Grimes for Cody Martin, and I think that was just a stupid trade. They didn't need to trade away such a young player that the fan base loved immediately after trading away another young player that was a superstar that the fan base loved. They could have just kept him, and it wouldn't have changed much at all. Trading away Luka and Quentin Grimes is just so sad. So I'm going to give them a D. Moving even more south of Texas, the San Antonio Spurs, who got De'Aaron Fox for, everyone's saying it's a fleece. I don't believe it, but it's an A tier. De'Aaron Fox is about as perfect as a mesh as you can get with Wembanyama. Him and Chris Paul. Chris Paul is another one, and Trae Young probably are like the top 3 guards. So going out and getting De'Aaron Fox to pair with Wemby is an amazing fit, in my opinion, in probably everyone's opinion. And I saw a video saying Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox are 2 of the best guards in the pick and roll. And Wembanyama is one of the best roll men in the pick and roll. They're both young. They're going to grow together. They're going to learn to play together. Chris Paul is going to be able to coach the young guys. Yeah, great. That's an A by far. Probably the second best in the deadline. Next up is the Phoenix Suns. They traded Nurkic away, which is a win. So I'll give them a C or a D. I'll give them a C. I'm pretty comfortable with the C. It's a very mid trade. That's fine. We'll keep them C. Next up is the LA Clippers, who traded away. Who did they trade away? They traded away Bones Highland and Mann and Kevin Porter Jr. And they got Marjon Beauchamp and Bogdan Bogdanovic. This is a trade that, their deadline was fine. They got a lot of seconds, right? If I'm not mistaken, they got a lot of seconds. And Bogdan has been pretty bad. Marjon Beauchamp has been pretty bad. But it's not like Bones and Mann were really popping off either. I'll place them in the C as well. They accumulated some picks, and they just reworked the talent. It's fine. It's whatever. The Warriors, I'm saving for last. I got some words to say about the Warriors. Next up is the Detroit Pistons, though. And the Pistons, I don't think they gave up a single thing this deadline. They only added. They got Dennis Schroeder, they got Lindy Waters, and they got 2 seconds. And it's just for cap space, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty easy B. It might be an A, just because they accumulated stuff without really giving up anything. I'm going to keep them B, just because they didn't get much. They might buy out Schroeder. They might not. Either way, I think it's a good decision for them. Yeah, I'll keep them B. B's good for them. Next up is Sacktown. And for Sacktown, they traded for Levine, Valanciunas, and Laravia, which is a fine return. They got a ton of picks as well. I think a lot of people hate this one. They say they got fleeced by the Spurs. I'm going to give them a B, though. I think they got, Levine, in my eyes, is not that much worse than Fox. A lot of people are thinking it's like a crazy drop-off. I don't think it's a crazy drop-off. I think getting Valanciunas is good. It adds more. Valanciunas can shoot the 3, right? And he will probably pair good alongside Sabonis. I think it's a good trade. I think it's fine. I think it's a B tier. Another team that I'm just going to throw in the B tier right now is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They got DeAndre Hunter. The only reason I'm not giving them an A, DeAndre Hunter is a great pickup, but the only reason I'm not giving them an A is because they traded away Karis LeVert, who I really liked for the Cavs. I thought he should have been, this may be a hot take, but favorite for most improved player, not just up there. If they could have gotten it without Karis, if maybe they could have just traded a Max Strus or a Georges Niang and picks, I think it would be way better. But the losing Karis LeVert brings them down to a B, in my eyes. Next up, the Boston Celtics traded Springer for a second, I believe. That's about as C tier as it gets. They didn't make any massive changes whatsoever. They just traded away a young player that doesn't get playtime for a second. C tier, not much to say about it. Next up, the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers did not have a lot of moves. They traded away Reggie Jackson and a first that I believe was between maybe the Clippers, and I know it was between the Rockets and the Thunder. So that pick is probably going to be a late first rounder whenever it finally comes to fruition for 4 second-round picks, and then went and got Quentin Grimes. Actually, this team is maybe teetering on an A, but I'm going to put them in B for now. Yeah, I feel comfortable with a B. And now we got the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets are a team that I like their trade deadline. They got Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, Nurkic, 2 firsts, and a second for Mark Williams. And I mean, Mark Williams was really the only big thing they gave up. So they were very active. They may not have gotten a lot better in talent, but they got picks, they got young players, and they got a high contract player that's not very good, which is fine. I'm giving them a B as well. Next up is the Washington Wizards, who traded away Jonas Valanciunas, Kyle Kuzma, and who else? Johnny Davis. And then they got Marcus Smart, they got Alex Len, they got Khris Middleton, and they got AJ Johnson, and they got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a swap. So I'm going to throw them an A as well, actually. Yeah, I'll throw them an A. Khris Middleton and Marcus Smart are going to, and AJ Johnson's a good defensive young piece. So you got Smart, AJ Johnson, Bilal Coulibaly. They are going to tear up defensively, and then they got picks for the future. Wizards had a very good trade deadline. I'm giving them an A. And down here on the opposite end of that spectrum, the Orlando Magic did nothing. They're falling out of the playoff contention. They have moved to the 8th seed, if I'm not wrong, and they didn't make a single move. This is F tier as it gets, basically. This is probably the worst team in the trade deadline. They should have made a move at least. I don't know what was going through the front office, because they have the worst ranked offense and they have a top 2 defense. So you can trade away some young defensive players like Jalen Suggs, for example, for some offensive players. I don't know who. It's not my job. But find someone and help them, surround Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner with some good pieces that will help them compete for the playoffs, because last year they brought the Cavaliers to 7, and the Cavaliers were one of the better teams in the playoffs. So they showed the potential, and the front office just hasn't capitalized on it for some reason. I think they had the worst trade deadline, probably. Yeah, no, they had the worst trade deadline. And next up is the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks had a solid trade deadline. They were very active. They got Karis LeVert, who I already said is a player that I like a lot. I will go ahead and put them C tier, because while they got Karis LeVert and they got 2 first-round picks for DeAndre Hunter in 4 seconds or something, and they got rid of Bogdan. I'll give them a B. It was a pretty solid trade deadline from them. The third best team in the trade deadline, the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat had a very good trade deadline. They got Andrew Wiggins, who is not, I don't care what anyone says, Andrew Wiggins is not that much worse than Jimmy Butler. He fills that 3-and-D role, and they got Davion Mitchell, and they got Kyle Anderson and a first. So Davion Mitchell, is, for those who don't know, is a very young defensive-minded player. They got Andrew Wiggins, who is an offensive and defensive player, and Kyle Anderson, who's a veteran, and a first for Jimmy Butler, who was just kind of causing issues. So I think this is a very good trade for the Miami Heat. They may have even had a better one. I mean, it's these 3. These 3 are in a tier of their own, and I'm actually going to add back that S tier just for them. Make it Lakers purple. Yeah, I'll stand by that. I don't care. They had a good trade deadline. And second to last, we have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers had a deadline where they didn't do much. They traded away James Wiseman just to free up cap space, though, which is fine. James Wiseman played 1 game. I think he played the season opener, and then he got injured. So very sad for James Wiseman to have to get traded away like this. But for the Pacers, it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's a very C-tier trade. And last but not least, the Golden State Warriors. Golden State had, other than the Orlando Magic, Golden State had the worst trade deadline. It's these 2 in a tier of their own in the bottom. They traded for Jimmy Butler, which is a trade a lot of people like, but let me read you something. In 2026, Stephen Curry will be 38, Draymond will be 36, and Jimmy Butler will be 37. That's a very old big 3 to have. And these 3 players alone will be paid $150 million between the 3 of them. And they are already the 11th seed, 10th or 11th seed, and they are not getting that much better. I mean, they lost Andrew Wiggins, which in Steve Kerr's interview about it, he looked shattered. Steph Curry did not look too pleased about it either, but Steve Kerr talked about Andrew Wiggins as a teammate, as a leader, as a father, Steve Kerr was getting very emotional about this trade just to bring in Jimmy Butler, who is one of the most ruthless players to a front office. Awful trade. This is worse than the Orlando Magic. I don't care. This is the worst trade. This is the very worst trade. This is awful. But ranting out of the way. This is the final bracket. We got these three teams in the S tier who had a very good deadline. These three are far and away the best. Then we have these two who had great, not amazing. Then we have these ones who had good, not great. And then we have fine trades, bad trades, and then these and the Warriors. I'm pretty happy with this tier list. One more thing we could talk about how long is the video? It depends on how long the video is, but I want to pull up the all-star teams. We'll just talk about it real quick. On Team Shaq, there's LeBron, Steph, Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Jaylen Brown. This has some pretty cool storylines with the LeBron James and Anthony Davis team up. And then LeBron, Steph, and KD is a pretty iconic trio, along with James Harden and Kevin Durant, who have a history. I think Team Shaq is a pretty fun pick. I don't hate it. It's whatever. They're probably the second best team. The team that is probably going to lose to the Rising Stars is Team Kenny, though, with Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Jaren Jackson Jr., Jalen Williams, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, and Tyler Hero. These are some of the... he basically only picked reserves. Jalen Brunson, with the stars by him, is the only starter that he picked. This is a pretty rough team. They're probably going to lose to the Rise. Well, no, probably not, just because if the team comes to play, then they're not going to. But I don't really love this. You got Darius Garland and Evan Mobley teaming up, which is, pretty cool, I guess. But where's Jared Allen? Am I blind? I don't see Jared Allen in this at all. I thought he made... No, I'm stupid. It's Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley's a fun team up. Not even like storylines in this, though. It's just a very okay team. And the last one, they look at this top three right here. Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. These are the three best players in basketball. I don't know how they all got on the same team. And then we have Victor Wembanyama and Pascal Alperen and Karl-Anthony Towns and Donovan Mitchell. This is the best team by far. This is easily going to win it all. LeBron's probably going to come to play just because he takes this first-time stuff very seriously, like the play-in tournament he took very seriously, and he won it. So it'll be interesting between Team Shaq and Team Chuck, but Kenny did not come to play. Anyway, that was the trade deadline video. Hope you enjoyed. Comment if there's anything I should do better or anything I could do better. Comment video ideas. I don't know. Subscribe. Thanks for watching.